Morning, folks. How are we doing today? All right, well, hello. All right, so let's start with the basics. Did everybody get the email that I sent out to everybody's, personal email about the AP test? All right, some people did, some people didn't. Well, let me sum it up for you and try to help you guys out to best understand it. So, the AP test this year, all AP tests, are going to be 45 minutes long, timed, online. You should be able to access them with a phone, with a computer, with a tablet, whatever electronics you have. They are saying you are going to be able to access and complete the test. They're going to be offering two different days. We're not sure when those are yet. One's going to be an earlier test, one's going to be a later test for whatever the students feel is most advantageous to them. So it's going to be a big change. And because of that, we are not finishing this year's curriculum because the test isn't going to do anything on the entire topic we just went over. And no ecology. Both of those have been completely removed from this year's test. Agreed. Oh my god, agreed. So, this year's test is only going to be focusing now on sections 1 through 6, which means it's going to be testing us on water and bonding, cells, cell organelles, cell function, cell communication, cell cycle, photosynthesis, cell respiration, all the cellular stuff. Um, to say no evolution at all is a little bit misleading, but yes, in general, assume no evolution. Yes, it's exclusively on the annoying stuff that none of us actually like. Um, Past the cells, we do get into genetics, which at least genetics is better, right? We can at least agree on that, or at least like it more. But yeah, so evolution is off the table. Ecology doesn't even need to happen now. So this is radically changing what we're looking to do for the remainder of this year because now we don't even have the last topic to do. It's just a question of prep and review to try to get you guys ready for it whenever those dates are. They both might be moved up, they might be later. They say that we should have the dates by April 3rd, but that's still, who knows? Who the hell knows? So, that's that. Now they did post a big Q&A that goes over a lot of different things in regards to this. If you check, I can never remember which way I need to point over here. Yes. If you check over here, I actually posted a copy of their Q&A so you can go through and you can read and see what sort of things are people asking and the sorts of answers that they're giving you. Ultimately, I've pretty much summed it up, but yeah, so this is a thing, and this is how it's going to work now. As 45 minutes, also, it looks like it's going to be exclusively multiple choice. Now, I don't know that for sure, but it looks like they're trying to figure it out, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's either multiple choice or maybe just the tiniest bit, like a free response question. So we'll see. Which then brings us to our main point because now all the materials and stuff that I have planned and organized are essentially no good to us. Math or no math? It is entirely likely that they will still ask you math questions as part of the multiple choice. They've done this years past. For instance, Hardy Weinberg often comes up in the multiple choice segment because what they can do is say out of 50 newts, 12 of them have this recessive phenotype. What is the p value? And then A, B, C, D, and E have different ones, and you've just got to calculate it real quick and then answer the correct letter. So it is possible, but it does mean probably less. For a lot of the larger, more complex things, like for instance, a chi-square analysis is not a quick computation. Just setting it up alone takes a couple minutes, usually. And if that's the case in a 45-minute test, I don't think they're going to have the kind of time to ask you any or many of those. It certainly can't make up the majority. So, yeah, we're going to be adjusting things. What that means is I'm hoping in the next couple of days to finish out evolution. We have worked on it. And they do say that there will be aspects of evolution a little bit. Namely, in genetics, one of the topics that they are including is effect of natural selection on a phenotype. That is, our types of selection: directional, stabilizing, disruptive. Understanding the way natural selection works and those three influences will still be important, it seems. But beyond that, it means we're going to finish up evolution this week because I feel like it would be insulting for the amount of work that you've done to just be like, trash can it, moving on. But at the same point, if it's not going to be tested, why test for it? So we're not. Quick juke to the side. Instead, you guys are going to do a project for evolution. Hopefully it'll be a little bit more interesting. It'll give you a little bit of practice laterally across the unit instead of just isolated questions on particular topics. And yeah. Now for this one, I am going to suggest groups. Generally speaking, the larger the group, the easier this project is. If you want to run it solo, ignore the paperwork, go for it. You are free to do so, but you may find that it's more work than it would necessarily need to be. Okay, also, as a heads up, I have actually posted, once again, I'm trying to figure out which way I need to point. This? Nope, this way, yes. Over here, I actually posted a thing to the YouTube channel that I'm uploading all the videos to. So people can actually find it now in case they need to see one, because otherwise it's nothing but 100 pages of Boy Meets World Eric Matthews, because they don't know how amazing I am and they only know some actor. It's insulting, really. Okay, so if we take a look here, there's the YouTube link, the AP testing Q&A. And then if you click on Monday for March 23rd, we get to our evolution project directions, then the actual project itself. So what we're going to do, and we're going to count this as a test grade, because why not? We can. Is you and your group, you are going to create an entire cladogram following a single clade of extinct organisms. Strictly fictional. These cannot be real living things. They cannot be things that used to live. They should not be anything that lives now. I want you guys to make this up. Now, if you want to draw that, you're going to need pictures. You can draw them. You will not be graded on your drawing capability. So if you end up drawing stick figures with pokey things coming at whatever, fine, good enough. My suggestion is you can find some really neat pictures. Just decide on a characteristic. So, let me run through this. We did something very similar to this way back towards the beginning of the year. But now we're going to be working in a single clade. Now we're going to be working with a single evolutionary line. And you're going to be treating this like a series of fossils that have been found, reconstructed, and then their relationships analyzed to one another. Oh, hold on. Oh, yes, but this is a little different. With the evolution project in ninth grade that you did, you had to create the organism and the changes. Now what you need to do is you need to make sure to be able to point out the similarities because it's the things that are shared that give us that sense of evolutionary relationship. It's not the things that are different. So, if you take a look at this, it says you and your group will create a clade of extinct organisms fictional. Each of you will create your own organism and then coordinate with your group to ensure that a series of clear evolutionary changes progresses through your organism. Each organism will need a minimum of 3 pieces of evolutionary evidence linking to each of the other species, both its ancestors and its descendants. That's kind of an important bit that people often forget. It says use your notes to determine what things are evidences of evolution. For each creature, there must be 3 pieces of specific evidence that link them to the creature that came before them, and also 3 that link them to the creature that comes after them. And your entire table, every species in this one clade, should have one single characteristic that is uniform across every single one of them. Something very specific. So we know that they are all directly related to each other. As an example, our understanding of whales comes from the fossil record because inside the skull, we find this weird little bony nodule that kind of protrudes down into the brain area. If we go back to more ancient whales, we find it too. If we go back further than that, we start to find limbed animals, but they still have that tiny little nodule of bone in their skull, inside their brain pan. We've been able to track that single weird random thing all the way back to the very earliest records we have of a male ancestor, and it was effectively like a dog that must have been running along a beach and started to grab fish from the shallows, and bit by bit natural selection did the rest. But that random little trait that they had inside their skull was carried on through hundreds of millions of years of change because it didn't give them a negative. So that is the one trait for whales that lets us look at skulls and fossils and say that is the connection. They weren't whale-sized. The modern size of whales is very modern. No, I suggest that nodule of bone, the example I just gave you, use that as the one unifying characteristic that goes through all of your species. Keep that as the one thing that allows us to tell, guaranteed, that these are all related to each other. So, let me give you guys a better, more hands-on kind of example for this thing. Ah, yes, the whiteboard. So, you're going to set up a clade, right? And then along the way, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say, and finally 5 species. I believe if you read down further in the directions, 5 is the number that I want everybody to make in total, which is why if you're in a group, each person does 1, and then you guys can figure out how to put them together. Or each person does 2, something like that. Anyway, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have one characteristic that follows all the way through and never changes. In this case, maybe we say something absolutely dumb like it has 3 noses. Right? So that would be our evidence that these are all related because they all have 3 noses. We have found 3 noses on no other living things, which suggests that these are all part of the same evolutionary line. Now, for number 1, this is going to be our starter. So, number 1 is going to have 3 characteristics that we need to see get carried on to number 2. We don't have an earlier ancestor, so that's it. Now, number two, though, number two is going to have three characteristics that are shared that it got from the last one, but then it needs to offer three characteristics that move up to the next one. Maybe they're the same, maybe they're different. It's okay if some of them are the same. If you decide to do some birds and you want to say that wings continue all the way up, well, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Now, number three is going to have those three characteristics from number two, and then it's going to offer three new characteristics up to number four. Similarly, number four has to share those three characteristics that it got from number three, and then offer three more up towards number five. Since number five is the end of this clade, this is current day, fictional, that animal doesn't need to pass any more traits on. So your first one and your fifth one will each only have three. The first one will have the three that it passed on. The fifth one will have the three that it got from the last ancestor. Do you guys understand the idea? It should take, this is one of those projects. Right, number two will have the three that it got from number one and the three that it passes up to number three. But keep in mind, some of these will be the same. You can say that number two got wings from number one and still passed wings on to number three. I ask that you guys, you know, do the adequate levels. Don't go through and say, oh, wings, beak, and feathers from number one all the way to number five. Like, mix it up some, but feel free to carry over a trait from each one to the next one. Plus, remember that one universal trait that every single member of this clade would share. Now, this is pretty straightforward. And it's one of the projects that seems very easy, but I guarantee you, once you start actually working on it, it will start to get more complicated, and you're going to start to find more pitfalls and more parts that need adjustment or need a little bit of additional work. Now, tomorrow, I will bring up the next stage of this. So each day, I'm going to add another layer to this project that you guys need to complete. And so by doing that, we should be able to create an almost full evolutionary history for your fictional family of animals. Now, my suggestions would be to share work back and forth over Google. You guys might be able to set up, shared documents so everybody's working on theirs at the same time. I'm aiming by Friday. We were talking about doing the test on Thursday, so if I have this by Friday, no problem. Seems good. Like I said, I'll add a layer tomorrow. I'll add a layer Wednesday. And then on Thursday, I will probably just be here to field questions or concerns that people have as they're working on it. Have some fun with this. Remember that most of this evolution stuff is not going to be counted now on the AP exam, so don't stress too much over it. And I'm going to need some time to put together basically a complete change to the review strategy that we use, because we don't know when the test is. We don't know how long we're going to have to review. They may announce the two dates as like April 10th and April 12th for all we know, and move the entire test up a month. They may push it back to June. We don't know yet. So I've got to start putting together some stuff for these changes, and that's probably going to take me, most of the week. But does anybody have any questions about the basic part, just to get started on for the project? while I wait to see, be careful of headlines. I'm seeing even more right now. People in the ninth grade normal bio class, somebody came right in and was like, "Did you hear they canceled New York testing?" And they're not wrong, but they also didn't read the article because they did not cancel the regents. They canceled 3 through 8 testing. A lot of things are going super clickbait right now. So you guys be careful when you see a headline. Double check it. See what the actual information says. All right. If you guys are good, I'll some time to work on this. Uh, do try to find pictures or create pictures that will fit. Usually, one of the best things to do is decide what shared characteristic you want. Throw that shared characteristic into a Google search with something like, creature or monster or something like that. And then just take a look at all the pictures that pop up and decide which ones you want to take. And then you can come up with the characteristics that they share and choose what order they have to go in. All right. If everybody's got it, we'll start there. Tomorrow, once again, another layer to this, a little bit more work that you're going to have to dive into. You guys too. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.